Don't tell him I'm home." Bruno stopped with his hand on the car door. "Boss? Nobody announces me. Nobody calls the house. Something wrong, boss?" "No, you're 4 hours early. I'm aware. 2 in the afternoon, Tuesday, March." A meeting in Boston had ended early. He had not been able to think of a reason to stay. He had come home to an empty house 11 times that year. He went in through the side entrance, and he heard music. It came from the West Hall, which nobody used. An old song, Italian, the kind with an accordion in it. His father had played it on Sundays. Nobody in that house had played it in 9 years. Alessandro walked to the end of the corridor and stopped. Junie Hayes had his mother's hands in hers. She was moving. A small step back, a small step forward, in time with the accordion. She pulled gently. And the old woman in the wheelchair swayed with her, and lifted one hand, and turned it in the air. His mother was laughing. He could not remember. The last time he had heard that sound, Alessandro Marchetti had made 3 men in that city change their names. He stood in his own hallway with his hand over his mouth, and did not go in. He stood there for 40 minutes. Junie Hayes was 33, 14. 14 months earlier she had been hired as housemaid and personal companion to Signora Rosa Marchetti, which in that house meant she cleaned 4 rooms and sat with 1 woman, and nobody had ever written down which was the job. She started at 6, not because anyone told her to. The house ran from 7, but because Signora Rosa woke at 5:40, and there was an hour before that in which the old woman lay in the dark and could not turn herself over, so Junie came at 6. Nobody had told her to. Nobody had noticed that she did. "You are early again." "I'm on time." "You are on time for a shift that does not exist. Then it's a good thing I like you. I am not likable." "No," Junie agreed. "But you're interesting, and that's rarer. That is the rudest kind thing anyone has said to me. I'll write it down. Good morning." "It is not. It's a bit morning. It is dark and my hip is a liar." "Your hip is a liar. Let's see what it's lying about today." "It says I cannot get up. It said that yesterday. Yesterday it was correct. Yesterday it was correct at 6. It was wrong at 7. She kept a wall chart. It hung inside the linen cupboard door, where visitors would not see it. A paper know that yet. A paper month grid with a fresh one taped up on the 1st of every month, and the old ones in a shoebox on the shelf above the medication. In it she wrote everything. Time of the first dose, whether it took 20 minutes or 50. Which side the tremor was worse. Whether Rosa had made the terrace or only the door. What she ate. What she said. She had started it in week 2. The day nurse changed every 3 months, and nobody handed anything over. Nobody had asked her to do that, either. She was not a nurse, and never pretended to be. She did not touch the doses. She wrote down the times. The day nurse read what she wrote, and that was the whole of it. Her uniform fit her full figure neatly, and one plain than that most of the men who came through that house looked past her, as though she were furniture with a job. She had stopped minding that a long time ago. At 11 the physio came. At 1 Signora Rosa slept. At 2, on the days when the medication was working, they did the hall. The hall was Junie's idea, and it had happened by accident. In her 4th month, she had carried laundry past the west corridor with the radio going in her apron pocket. From the chair, the old woman said, "Turn that up." Junie turned it up. Rosa's foot started moving. Not much. But it had started moving, and it had not been moving 5 seconds earlier. Junie did not know why rhythm reached Rosa when ordinary instructions could not. She only knew it worked. So she did it every day at 2. Higher. "That's as high as your arm goes today, Signora. That is not as high as my arm goes. It is at 2 o'clock. At 4 we'll try again, and I'll be wrong. You are always wrong at 4. That's why I like 4. Rosa Marchetti had been difficult for 78 years, and had no intention of stopping. She had opinions about the flowers, the driver, the government, and her sons. "You are a terrible dancer. I know. Truly terrible." My father said the same thing. Your father was correct. He was a doctor. Then he knew about disasters. Signora, I am 80% joking. You are not. I am 70% joking. That was March the 11th. That was the day Alessandro came home early. He did not say anything that afternoon. He waited until the music stopped, and the wheelchair had gone back down the hall, and then he went to his office and sat in it for 2 hours without opening anything. He found Junie in the corridor at 7 that evening. "Miss Hayes." "Sir, you were dancing with my mother." She had been carrying towels. She put them down, which she would remember later, as the moment she thought she was being dismissed. "Am I being dismissed, sir?" "No, you've never come down this corridor before. I'm aware of that." "Yes. Why? Because it helps." "Helps what?" "Her walking. She doesn't walk. She walks 11 steps on a good day. You've not been here on a good day." He looked at her the way men look at a figure on a page that doesn't add up. "Dancing helps her walk. Silence. The music does. She freezes at the doorway. She gets stuck, her feet stop, and the more she wants to move, the less she can. If there's a beat she can hear, she goes through." Junie shrugged. "I don't know why. I found out by accident with a radio." "What station, sir?" "The radio." "What stations?" 91.5. "It's mostly old Italian and adverts for tires." "Adverts for tires. She likes those too. She corrects the prices. She's never bought a tire in her life. She's very confident about it." "About tires." "About everything. The tires are only where it's easiest to see." "That was my father's station." "I know," Junie said. "She told me. That's why I left it there." "How long have you been doing this?" 10 months. 10. Give or take. It's in the book." "What charts?" "The charts. In the shoebox above her medication." "What's in it?" 14 months of her. Give or take. Silence. 10 months, he said. "Most days, not when the medication's late." "Which days is it late?" "Thursdays." "Why?" "Thursdays. The pharmacy runs Thursday deliveries after lunch. She takes the first dose at 11 instead of 9, and by 2 she can't." "Nobody told me that." "Nobody's asked me anything for 14 months, sir." Silence. "What else haven't I asked?" "That's a long list. Give me one." "She hates the blue painting in the hall. She's hated it since 1981. Junie picked up the towels. "It's still hanging there." He was quiet for so long that she picked the towels back up. "Was that all, sir? Does she enjoy it?" "Does she what?" "Enjoy it. The dancing." Junie stopped. It was, she thought later, an extremely strange question for a man to ask about his own mother, and the strangest part was that he did not seem to know it was strange. "She laughs," Junie said. "Every time. She tells me I'm terrible at it." "You are terrible at it. Everyone says so." "Does she say it kindly?" "She has never said anything kindly in her life." "No," he agreed, "she hasn't." Something happened at the corner of his mouth and did not become anything. 2 o'clock, he said. 2 o'clock, sir. When the medication's working." He nodded once and walked away, and Junie stood in that corridor, holding a stack of towels and had absolutely no idea what had just happened. She found out 3 days later. From the old woman in the way the old woman did everything. "You do not know who my son is. He's Mr. Marchetti." "Yes." Rosa's hands moved on the blanket. "And what does Mr. Marchetti do?" "Business. Business." She made a sound. "Sit down." Junie sat down. Silence. "When my husband died, there were 4 families in this city, and now there is one, and it is this one, and my son did that in 19 years, without ever once telling me a lie about it." Rosa said it flatly, the way you read out a shopping list. "So now you know." Junie did not move. "You have gone white." "I've gone a bit white." "Are you afraid of him?" I've been afraid of him for 14 months. I thought it was because he was rich. You are not afraid of me. You're different. I am worse. I raised him. Rosa Marchetti laughed. It cost her. The laugh turned into a cough, and Junie was up and beside her before it finished, and the old woman waved her off. Sit down. I am not finished. Junie sat. You are still white. I'm working on it. He came to see me on Thursday. He did. Do not look so pleased. I'm not pleased. You are extremely pleased. For 11 minutes. He stood by the window, and he asked me about the physiotherapy. Rosa's eyes went to the door. Before that it was December. December, Junie repeated. The 17th. He brought a coat and he stayed 9 minutes, Signora. I am telling you a fact, not making a complaint. My son can look at anything. She turned her hand over on the blanket, the tremor moving through it. He cannot look at this. Have you told him that? I have told him nothing. He is 45. He can find his own way to a door. That's a bit harsh, Signora. It is accurate. Accurate and harsh aren't opposites. I am Sicilian, old and ill. I am allowed one harsh thing a day. He started coming at 2. Not every day. But he began to appear at the end of the West Hall, and stand there, and not come in. On the 4th day, Junie put her head around the corner. On the first 3 days, nobody said anything about it at all. He's there again, Rosa said. I know. Is he going to come in? I don't know. Then turn the music up. He hates that. He doesn't hate it. He hates that I like it. That is different, and it is worse. You can come in, you know. I'm not interrupting. You're standing in a corridor, sir. That's less normal than coming in. He came in. He stood by the window with his hands behind his back like a man at a funeral, and Rosa Marchetti looked at him for a long moment, and then said, You are blocking the light. Sorry. Move. He moved. Further. He moved further. Now you are in the door. You said further. I said move, not emigrate. I don't loom. You are 6'2" and silent. That is looming. Junie put a hand over her mouth and turned toward the window. By the 3rd week he was carrying the chair over the lip in the doorway where the marble changed. By the 4th he had learned that the medication was late on Thursdays, because the pharmacy delivered late, and had made a phone call, and the pharmacy did not deliver late anymore. You moved the lip in the doorway. That had taken out. That was marble. It was in the way. He did not mention that he had made the call. Junie found out from the pharmacy. Somebody rang them, the delivery driver told her. Didn't say who. Very polite. Terrifying. Terrifying how? He said please twice. And then in April, Rosa Marchetti noticed something. You are not here for my left knee. I'm here because you're my mother. You have been my mother's son for 45 years, and you managed 9 minutes in December. She turned her hand over on the blanket. Stop looking at the door every time she leaves through it. Silence. I don't, Alessandro. I look at the door because it's a door. You are 45 years old and you are lying to a woman who cannot lift a cup, Rosa said. Sit down, you are looming again. He sat down. She came at 6 this morning, Rosa said. Nobody asked her to. She has done that for 14 months and it is not in her hours, and I have never once seen it on a piece of paper. I know. You did not know last week. No. Then that is the first useful thing you have said today. Down the corridor, a door closed, and both of them looked at it. Both of you, Rosa said, are extremely stupid. That's a strong word. It is the correct word. She comes at 6, and you stand in a corridor. And between you there is one house and 400 rooms, and neither of you can cross a doorway. You made a joke about a doorway. I have Parkinson's, not a personality transplant. She asked him in May. They were in the West Hall at 7 in the evening, and Rosa had gone to sleep, and Alessandro was still standing by the window, and Junie had learned by then that with him you had to let a question sit like bread. Can I ask you something that isn't my business? That depends what it is. That's not a yes. It's the most I give. It's the most you give to anyone, or the most you give to me. Junie. I'm only checking. She put down the folded blanket. Between December and March, you came into that room once. He did not answer. You have a plane. You have people who do everything else for you. You could have been here every day and you weren't. And then you stood in a corridor for 40 minutes in March. She looked at him. Bruno told me 40. He wasn't gossiping. He was worried about you. Bruno talks too much. Bruno said 9 words and then went to get the car. That's still 4 more than I'd like. Silence. She was the loudest woman in 3 neighborhoods, Alessandro said. Junie waited. When I was 9, she came to my school and told a teacher, in front of 40 children, exactly what she thought of him. My father hid in the car. He turned the ring on his finger once. She threw a man out of our kitchen in 1994 with a wooden spoon, and he was armed. That sounds like her. Was he hurt? He apologized to her. To the spoon. In December, I stood in that room, and she could not lift a cup, he said. And I found that I could go anywhere in the world, except through that door. Alessandro. It was the first time she had used his name, and neither of them remarked on it. You think it's cowardice, he said. It is. I'm aware. I think it's the most common thing in the world. That's not a defense. It wasn't meant to be one. It was meant to be company. You'd know. I would. Yes. That's the first thing you've told me about yourself. I know. That doesn't make it better. No, she agreed. But you've been coming every day for 6 weeks, and you carry the chair over the marble, and you fixed the pharmacy, and didn't tell anyone. So we can call it whatever you like. He looked at her for a long moment. You've done this before, he said. This, all of it, you knew about the doorway in your 4th month. My father. 4 years. She picked the blanket back up. So no, sir. I don't think it's cowardice. I think it's Tuesday. Dario Marchetti filed in June. He was 51, he was the older brother, and he had been to that house 3 times in 3 years. The petition asked the court to find that Signora Rosa Marchetti lacked capacity to manage her affairs, and to appoint him. He came to explain it at the long table, in front of 9 people. This isn't a fight, it's a formality and it's overdue. It isn't overdue, Alessandro said. She can't hold a pen, Sandro. She can hold a pen at 10 in the morning. That's the point. A woman with capacity between 10 and 11 is a woman with a problem, and the trust has $40 million and 11 signatures a year. Dario opened a folder. 2 physicians have reviewed her file. Which file? The medical file. Then they've reviewed 12 appointments in 14 months, Alessandro said. It's the only file there is. Junie was at the side table with the water. There's also the staff, Dario said. She's been alone in a room with our mother for over a year and there are 14 months of paper nobody has ever read. Close the folder. Dario kept going. That was not a request. The folder closed. Whatever is on those sheets belongs to my mother, Alessandro said. Not to this table. That's convenient. It's true, Sandro. Dario put both hands flat. You've been here. Every day. Since March. Everybody knows it. Everybody also knows you were not here at all before that. And people are asking what changed, and the answer they're giving each other is a maid. Nobody at that table was drinking. I'm not accusing this woman of anything. I'm sure she's exactly what she appears to be. That's the difficulty. Our mother cannot testify for herself, and there is one person who spends 9 hours a day alone with her, and that person has no medical qualification and no witnesses. He looked at Junie for the first time. Miss Hayes, I'm not saying you've that yet. I'm not saying you've done anything. I'm saying that from outside this room, there is no way at all to prove that you haven't. Junie set the jug down and went out through the kitchen. Alessandro found her on the back steps. Junie. He's right. He is not right. Not about me, about the outside. She did not turn around. There's no witness. There's never been a witness. It's just me and her, and a chart, and I'm the one who wrote it. That isn't your problem to solve. Then whose is it? Because in 3 weeks a judge is going to decide whether she's a person, and the only thing standing in the way is a housekeeper, with no letters after her name. Silence. 14 months I've worked in this house, she said, and in March you asked me if she enjoyed it. Do you know what that told me? It told me nobody had ever told you anything about her. So what am I here, Alessandro? Not to him. To you. He opened his mouth. Silence. Nothing came out. She nodded once, the way she nodded at a delivery, and went inside to finish the evening dose. The capacity hearing was on a Thursday, in a room with a long table, and a panel of 3, 2 of them physicians. Junie was not on the witness list. Alessandro's lawyer had asked her the week before whether she would come anyway, and told her to bring everything, and said nothing else about it. She sat at the back, with the shoebox on her knees. When the second physician said the phrase, "no reliable longitudinal record," the lawyer stood up. There may be one. It's domestic, not medical. I'd ask the panel to see it before deciding what it's worth. From whom? Miss Hayes. She has kept a daily record for 14 months. Dario's lawyer was already standing. This is entirely irregular. So is deciding a woman's capacity from 12 appointments, the chair said. Miss Hayes, are these your own records made by you on the days in question? Yes, and you understand you're confirming that to this panel. I do. Then let's see them. She put the box on the table. I'm not a nurse. I won't tell you what any of it means. I'll tell you what's in it, and you decide whether it's worth anything. She took out the first month. Every morning I write the first dose and how long it takes, 20 to 50 minutes. On days under 30, she reads the paper and argues with me about it. I write what she says, because she says good things and I didn't want to forget them. Miss Hayes, April the 2nd. She told me the government was a disgrace and gave 4 reasons. The 4th was about a bill in that morning's paper. Junie took out another month. May the 9th. She told me not to hang the blue painting in the hall because her husband bought it in 1981 to annoy his brother, and she wasn't going to help it work twice. The room had gone quiet. January the 12th. She dictated a letter to her sister in Palermo, 9 minutes. I read it back, and she changed 2 things, and one of them was a joke I hadn't understood. She looked up. That's not a woman without capacity. That's a woman whose hands don't work. The first physician had come around the table and was reading over her shoulder and was reading over her stopped hand moving. Bishem. Miss Hayes, you've been recording latency to onset. I don't know what that is. How long the medication takes to work. Then yes, for 14 months, 419 days. He went through 3 months fast. Doctor? The chair said. There's a pattern. He did not look up. The window is not random. Tightest between 9:40 and 11. Degrades after 4. 14 days here where it inverts, and everyone follows a night under 4 hours. He put a finger on a column. This is better than the medical file. It's daily. We don't have daily. That is a domestic diary, Dario's lawyer said. It's a symptom log, the physician said. I've asked patients for one of these for 25 years. Nobody has ever given me 14 months. The panel adjourned. When it came back, the chair adjourned the petition pending an independent ses reespedientos. Winter. The sheets described, Signora Marchetti, would be examined at 10 in the morning like a person, and not at 4 in the afternoon, like a diagnosis. Dario Marchetti stood up and said something about consulting his position. He set his glass down. His expression held, but it stopped arriving anywhere. Alessandro stood too. One thing before anybody leaves. My brother said there was no way to prove what happens in that room. He did not raise his voice. There were 419 days of proof on a shelf above the medication. And the only reason nobody read it is that nobody in this family thought to ask the person holding it. She found him in the West Hall at 2 in the morning. He had the radio in his hands and was losing. That's a radio. I'm aware. It has 2 buttons. I'm aware of that also. She took it off him, turned it on, and handed it back. He looked at it with real resentment. She's asleep, Junie said. I know. So I wanted to know what the room sounded like. He set the radio on the sill. You've been doing this at 2 o'clock for 10 months, and I have heard it once. From a corridor, with my hand over my mouth like a child. That's not the worst thing a person's ever done. It's not the best. You keep grading me. You keep asking. That's fair. It usually is. You could stop. I could. She leaned against the doorframe. The panel wrote to me, she said. They want the charts copied. And the doctor wants to talk to me about keeping a proper record. He says, there's a course. Are you going to do it? I'm thinking about it. Do it here. That's not a very good offer. That's an offer that keeps me in the same room. No, he said. That came out wrong. He stopped. He turned the ring on his finger once, and she waited, because bread. I've employed you for 14 months, and I've never asked you one question about your own life. I found out about your father from you, in a corridor, in a sentence you used to make me feel better. He said it evenly. So I'm not asking you to stay. I'm asking you to have dinner with me, and I would like to be clear that those are 2 different questions, and the second one has nothing to do with this house. Junie was quiet for a second. You're on the wrong side of the radio. What? Nothing. Come here. He came there. Ask me again, he asked her again. Yes, she said, and took his hand before he had finished working out whether he was allowed to take hers. She stepped closer and put his hand where Rosa's had been during the dance. Palm up, fingers open, waiting. Like that. I'm a terrible dancer. Your mother says you're worse than me, and she's never wrong before 4 o'clock. A year later, Junie Hayes was 11 months into a 2-year course. The contract was written by a lawyer who did not work for the family, and she changed 3 things in it. One was a clause about the charts, which are hers. Nothing else started until after she signed it, and that order mattered to her more than it mattered to him. She came to dinner in a dress instead of the uniform that had trained that house not to look at her, and the host had to ask Alessandro twice for the reservation name. Rosa Marchetti was reassessed at 10 in her own dining room. She told the physician his tie was a mistake, and he put it in the report. Her capacity was affirmed in full. Dario comes on Sundays now. It is not warm. It started with a phone call at 10:15. You sound well, he had said. I sound like myself. You have simply been calling at the wrong time of day for 3 years. I didn't know. No, she said. You didn't ask. The radio in the West Hall is a proper one now, and Alessandro can work it. Between 2 and 3, nobody goes down that corridor. He is still a terrible dancer. Alessandro Marchetti spent 19 years building a world where every man stopped talking when he entered a room. It made him rich. And it made him safe, and it put 9 minutes between him and his own mother in December. A housekeeper undid it by doing the opposite. She turned the music up, held out her hands, and waited in an empty corridor every afternoon for 10 months. Until the people he loved remembered how to move, nobody thought to ask her about it. She was only the person who was there. He stood outside that room for 40 minutes before he found the nerve to walk in. How long would you have stood there? Tell me below, and subscribe if you want more stories about the ones nobody thinks to ask.